All right. I think I'm live. Welcome to the show. Good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon, rather, or evening for the UK folk. Hope everybody's well. And we're going to be jumping on the call here with Bob and everybody else fairly shortly. Can everybody hear me? Just making sure we've got good sound. I don't have a little intro thing to play before I go live on the pre-show, so sorry about that if you enjoy that like I do. Kind of gets me pumped, that minute and a half before I go live. I enjoy it. Happy Super Bowl to everyone. I think the Patriots are playing against somebody, but I'm sure a lot of people will be tuning into that. Let me make sure we're ready for the phone call here. Yep. So yeah, shortly Bob will be calling, and then we'll have everybody on the line. We have a couple guests today, UAP, Martin Liedtke. So both those guests should be fantastic. And we're going to be talking about Tartaria, mud floods, resets, and the theft of your mind. So I'm super stoked about the show myself. I've done not a lot of research into it, just videos. I don't really call that research per se. But I've watched a lot of videos on it and think it's extremely interesting. And I'm definitely somebody who thinks that the human timeline is far shorter than we've been told. And on top of that, I believe that, just a couple hundred years ago at the most, that California was an island based on all the maps that I've seen, old maps, and things that they've been trying to change and drag this timeline out a lot farther. So, oh yeah, the Rams. Thank you. I knew that. Los Angeles now, right? LA Rams. So, yes, I don't think I'll be watching that particular show. The only reason I was thinking about watching it is I said, well, maybe I'll watch it and see how much Globe propaganda is in the Super Bowl. But the news was on this morning as I was eating breakfast, and I heard them say the reason that the Super Bowl is so popular is because of evolution. So so I was looking for Globe propaganda and right away got evolution propaganda. I guess when we were amoebas, we used to join, we used to be teams. This group of 11 amoebas versus that group, and we would go against each other and the gridiron. So I guess that's what they mean. I don't know. Obviously, the Super Bowl is famous because it's one game. There's not many sports where there's one game that especially the date of. If it's baseball, you don't know if it's going to go 7 games in the World Series, which would then be that there would be one game for the definitive winner. But that's not the case. In baseball, you would never know what that date would be, so people can't plan around it. The Super Bowl football, it's one game. They can schedule the date, years in advance. That date is already known, and everybody can take time off, and it's on a Sunday, and people can get together and have parties. That's easy to figure out why the Super Bowl is so famous. It has the most viewers because it's on a Sunday. People don't work. So I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with evolution. Evolution is the reason. It's pretty funny. Let me take a look and make sure that I'm not missing the phone call. I think Bob will probably be calling here. He usually calls about 20 minutes early, so maybe I jumped on a little bit quickly. Let's see. What can I show you in the meantime? Hope everybody's well. By the way, thank you to everyone in the chat. Let me see who's over there. NASA lies about everything. Yeah. I don't watch any network brainwashing. I mean, television. Yeah, no. And if you do watch it, as long as you know what you're watching is clearly propaganda, then you should be fine. Sports are a distraction. Totally agree. They distracted me for most of my life. I used to work as a store manager at a drugstore and would come home and watch a baseball game and fall asleep. That was pretty much my life. So I had no time for research. I had no time for looking into reality. I just accepted things as they were told to me. And it got me nowhere. So, good evening from Serbia. That's awesome. Awesome. Good evening from California, where it was thunder and lightning and hail yesterday, strangely. Today it's still wet, but no thunder, no lightning, no hail yet. We shall see. All right, there's Bob. Bob, we'll be waiting for your call here in a second. Should be interesting show. I'm looking forward to it. Amoeba becomes more amoeba than lizards, and now we have Lady Gaga. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, just all you need for that to be true is just billions of years, and then it's true. So, easy. 33 below in Alberta. Holy smokes. Let me look at the temperature here so you guys can all feel bad for me, because it's wet and rainy and miserable, right? Let's see here. How do you get to the weather on this thing? Weather. Let's see. The weather right now, it's very cold, 57 in Merced, and wet. So, yeah. And this, let's see. Let's look over the evening. It's going to get as low as 50. Oh, no, 49. It's, in the middle of the night tonight, it's supposed to be. So that is miserable if you're from California. I can't even imagine. I feel so bad for people that are out in the ridiculous cold. That is nonsense. When I went to Denver, it was, I think, 9 degrees at the top of the hill, and I thought I was going to perish. So let's see here. Sorry. Who is in charge here, may I ask? Who's in charge where? I'm in charge here. That's it. Hi, Karen B. Hello, everybody. Up, and here comes the call. So let's see who's on it. I don't know why I don't hear any sound.
You.
Hello.
Hey, Jaron.
Hello to everyone. How's everybody?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing good. I didn't hear Iru, right? He's on a plane.
Iru is on a plane, yes.
Oh, okay. So no Iru this afternoon, huh?
Nope. He's going to be listening. Well, hopefully he'll be listening if they have Wi-Fi. But you know how they have those satellites that covers the internet of the ocean, right?
Right.
Not.
Stream off the plane, no? Max did it once, didn't he? Remember he streamed on a plane with you, Jerry?
Yeah. You remember that show?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good because a lot of people at the time, I heard a lot of flat earthers saying that the flight was fake or that it would get rescheduled.
When his compass went to shit, I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was good to see somebody actually take that flight and the amount of time it takes, and that led me to look into jet streams and how fast the plane could be moving. So yeah.
He did us a favor, didn't he?
Yeah, really. Yeah, I mean that's great. We need more observations from south and people taking those planes and maybe checking compasses, and there's so much that goes on down there.
What was the trip and the duration then?
Max Egan, he flew from Sydney to Santiago, and live streamed from the airport in Sydney. Showed us that he was in the airport in Sydney, and then live streamed when he landed. And the total trip was, I think, a little bit more than 11 and a half hours.
11 and a half hours, okay. And I'm just trying to think back to the Zetetic map. I think Robotham would have had that value at somewhere around 7,000 miles nautical. So it was either 6,000 or 8,000, right?
Right.
So divide that by 11 and a half, and you get, if I can find my calculator.
Yeah, if you do the calculations on it, I've already kind of figured out that either the plane is going, 300 miles per hour, and then, it's getting a boost from the 200 mile per hour trade winds, and so it's really not utilizing those trade winds at all. And then it's only going 6,000 miles in those 11 and a half hours. Or it could be actually flying at what planes fly, 550 or so, and then add to that the 200, and then you get 750 miles an hour, and then you multiply that, and you get almost 9,000 miles, isn't it?
Well, the way I did it was I figured 7,000 miles for the distance, which is sort of in between. So like Robotham had those distances, and he wasn't coming up with the numbers. It was based on his research of mariners who had those numbers, but it was like either 6,000 or 8,000 nautical. So I just did 7,000 miles, made it in the middle, and divided by 11 and a half, and it's averaging about 608 miles an hour, which is, that's not, that's totally doable for a commercial jetliner.
Right, but then,
and it may be more or less than that, but a good average.
Yeah, well, it's 608 though, but then remember that there's the 200 mile per hour southern polar trade wind.
Right.
The jet streams.
Yeah.
So, that either means that the plane is going well below what it should. It's going 400 miles per hour and then plus the 200, so it's going a total of 608. Or you can add the 200 on top of that and say it's going 808 miles per hour, which again, people say, well, wouldn't that break the sound barrier? And I don't think it would, because the plane isn't actually cutting through air at that speed. It's being carried in those polar jet streams. So don't know.
Well, so the sound barrier is relative to a stationary point on the Earth, or it's relative to the medium which the jet is in? That's the question.
I think it's relative to the medium. So the jet has to cut
Correct.
through. Right. The jet has to cut through the air at more than whatever that. Which that's another thing I've always been baffled on.
That's crazy. Yeah, it really is. So you're telling me if there's a 200 mile an hour jet stream and a plane is going, say, 600 miles an hour on top of that, they're really going 800 miles an hour through the air, but because the plane is only going 600 miles an hour through the jet stream, then it wouldn't break the sound barrier?
Well, if the wind is going with it, then it's not, picture 200 mile per hour wind and the plane gets up in that wind. Well, it can't cut through that wind that's going with it at 200 miles per hour. So it's only going the speed that it's cutting through the wind. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
But still, relative to a stationary observer, it's going 800 miles an hour.
Right.
Yep.
So
Jaron, just to let your viewers know, when we cut over to Globebusters here in about 14 minutes, I just want to let everybody know that today's show, I think you probably already told them this, so we're going to be talking about Tartaria, mud floods, resets, and the theft of your mind. That was kind of an homage to the world premiere video that we will be showing by Alex Flat Earth Man. And
Awesome.
then after that, Martin and UAP will be discussing some very interesting subjects with us, involving these mud floods and everything. And I'm going to even try and elaborate on it a little bit more, and I'm sure they have some material on this as well, with relation to the resets that we've been going through. And, much to my chagrin, as much as I hate to admit this, because I'm not really a big fan of the guy, but we're going to be talking about the MCO event that was originally proposed by Brian Austin Lambert, because honestly, there's something to that, and I said that at the very beginning, but that doesn't make him any less of an asshat, in my opinion. But nevertheless, got to give credit where credit is due. So, and I think that is something that feeds into this absolutely.
100%.
what is the thing? I mean, I guess you'll go over it in greater detail on the show, or?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We're going to be talking about nothing but that stuff today on the show.
Nice.
And for those that think this is not related to Flat Earth,
It's 100% related to flat Earth.
Yeah, I think so too.
100% related to Flat Earth.
It can't work any other way.
Well, it doesn't
that's
need to
exactly
be.
right.
I mean, I don't know. Everything on Globebusters, I don't think, needs to be related to Flat Earth if it's related at all to the fact that we've been lied to on a mass level.
True.
Those things are so revealing to me, and I'm somebody. Yeah, I've watched a lot of videos, Martin, that you've done, and I haven't followed up on the research much, but it seems really solid. And the fact that California, so much evidence.
Substantial though, but we're feeling closer to direct. But the thing is, this is overwhelming.
Right.
And in any case, court of law, circumstantial evidence is enough for the case. And we got overwhelming that. So you get this inherent feeling. The way I think about this is we're in short windows of time, and it was easy what they did. The controllers with resetting, brainwashing, indoctrination of the state class, which at the time were children.
Right.
Okay, in these indoctrination, one, as you always say, Jerry, in one room, schoolroom. Nobody else to ask. Here's the globe, and these people, the controllers, we've sort of pieced together are the Phoenicians, which makes absolutely perfect sense because they worship Helios, and these are sun worshippers, aren't they, these lots? So it makes absolutely perfect sense. Everything with Bohemian Grove, this Moloch that they worship, it's all the Phoenicians. So the world market, I think that it's probably them that are controlling the show. Maybe they're bitches for someone else, who knows, probably. But that's why we've come to the conclusion that they wiped out Tartaria, and there's evidence for that too. It's a massive subject. Massive.
Oh, it's awesome, yeah.
Free energy, the benefits of it, like the spin side of this, is like the savior of humanity, because we can give everyone free. We got the knowledge for free energy to give it out there and turn this around, because we've gone right backwards. We were far more than we are now. They've demeaned us tremendously. I mean, we were far more advanced, but in a different fundamental of physics. It's nothing like this devil tech era we're in now. It was a more naturalistic magic. It was a better time all around for everyone.
Yep. And we're also going to be tying, believe it or not, we're also going to be tying Roswell into this in effect of the aliens, so-called aliens. Because I have found, I'm sure Martin has too, but I found some rather stunning related information to this. So yeah, it's going to be a great show. And of course, we're going to kick it all off with Alex Flat Earth Man, who is here with us right now. So Alex, say hello to everybody.
Hello to everybody. What's going on, people? Jaron, John, Martin, how you doing, guys?
What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Believe in
What's
gratitude.
up, Alex?
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah. I'm so looking forward to the show tonight, because I think this subject is absolutely fascinating, and I'm really sort of looking forward to the basic bullet points of it all, really. Not something I've researched a hell of a lot, but I'm certainly interested in it, and it sort of fits with the whole. And it does work with flat Earth. Absolutely,
the narrative's being spun in all sorts of directions. They're linking it into like the changes, like the empty cities. They're saying a Mandela effect, so that's a whole new genre that's just opened up. Mudflood Mandela effect, which I found annoying, and a few other spin-offs where they've just taken this subject and they're making it.
I will be listening intently. So
yeah,
awesome.
me too. You probably won't hear me talk much because, like I said, I've only seen a couple videos on it, and so I'm not really well researched on the subject. But I certainly believe that humanity, or at least the humans that are here now, are much more recent. I've showed before. I'll actually show it real quick. We have a couple minutes. I've showed before this site called. Let's see here where it is. Whoops! It's called Metamorphosis Alpha. Metamorphosisalpha.com. It's a human population calculator, and I remember playing.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I got it off you when you were talking about it. You left it in the box, the descriptions box at the time.
Right, it's just so crazy. I mean, this right here on the screen, if you put a starting year of 0 and a starting population of 2 people, and then you could put the ending year, whatever you want. So I think that they tell us that humanity's been here, 10,000 years, something like that, right? So if we put 10,000, even with a growth rate of 1%, which means, if you have 1,000 people one year, then the next year you would have 1,010, and the next year you would have 1,020. It's just going up at a 1% rate. If you calculate that, you'll see the number up here would be the population of the Earth in 10,000, which is I don't even know what number that is. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So when I started playing with this calculator to figure out, because I think a 2% growth rate is actually more realistic, and so if you put in a 2% growth rate, and then you just go down to say 2,000 years. So now we got a starting point at 0, population of 2, ending year of 2,000. If we calculate that, puts our population at still well over what we have today. What's this? Million, billion, trillion, 31 quadrillion would be the population. That's after 2,000 years only of a growth rate of 2%. So, if you back that down to 1% growth rate, then you've got 878,000. So that's why I think that, the hard part is figuring out what the growth rate actually is. And then a lot of people saying this, well, this doesn't calculate people dying. And I'm saying, yeah, yes, it does. It's a
1% rate.
Right.
But what about going the other way with it? This has always sort of baffled me. So in order to get 2 people, you have to have 4 parents. And in order to get those 4 people, you had to have 2 parents for each. So that doubles. You had to have 8. In order to get those 8 people, you have to have 16, and so on and so forth. If you go back, say, 50 generations, the number is just astronomical, and that's just assuming that everybody only has 1 child. Like, some people have 10 kids.
Right,
so,
especially in the past.
It's just crazy.
I mean, people had way more children in the past than they do now. I mean,
right.
In the 1800s and stuff, people would have 10, or more children because it ensured your family's safety, and maybe you ran a farm, and the more children you had, the more helping hands you had.
Hands on deck. Yeah.
Right. Now today, it's, if you have too many children, it gets to be financially crumbling. So I think that's why in the past, I think there was a higher growth rate.
Didn't China put a cap on it, something, only limiting it to sort of, 2 children per family, or am I making that up?
I've heard that. I don't know
so.
What the real.
Yeah, I think they have. And you have to have a license to have a child. And from what I gathered, they actually, if they like to have firstborn sons, and so if they have a lot of families, if they have firstborn daughters, they actually get rid of them, kill them.
They do. That's really sad. That's true, but it's sad.
Crazy.
So even with a growth rate of 2% in 1,000 years, you can get close. So I think it's 1111. I think I've done before. Oops, that's too many. And a growth rate of 2%. That's 7 billion, which is what we're at. And so, like I said, that's with a starting year of 0, population of 2, and an ending year of 1111, and a growth rate of 2%. So I think that, and then I know a lot of people don't believe that we have 6 billion people right now, or 7 billion people right now.
No way.
Right. So, I mean, then you start looking at it and saying, okay, well, then this number is much, much lower, which means that this ending year could be much lower too. That's why I think that, it's easily that humanity is 1,000 years old. That would be something I could get behind.
Well, that's what I'm going with. I think there's plenty of evidence that, with the changes in the dates, the Gematria Gregorian change, and the other changes, that they've added 1,000 years. I found evidence anyway today yesterday actually, that for Cambridge University some graffiti where somebody had put the date and it was 653. And he didn't put 1653, but 653. Okay, now that college was built in the 15th century, so it's obviously 1600s interpreted. So they've sort of added an I, and when you see the dates and it says a J, well, that's for Jesus, okay, or Isus if you see an I, which was typical in that era. So they added that on the beginning of the date, and nowadays they'll say, well, that's the date, okay, so it's like 1666, which is 666 date, which we think is a reset as well. It's a Great Fire of London. So yeah, it's complicated. Wow. There's a lot in it. Oh, honestly, it's just a mind-blowing subject, guys. Once you get into it, flat Earth smithered my brain in the beginning, but not like this.
Yeah, same with me, Martin. It's been just absolutely blowing me away. I've been very much immersed in this for the last few weeks, several weeks actually, since you started covering it. It's like wow.
Yeah,
so
indeed.
Yep. So we're about 4 minutes away from showtime, guys. So I'm gonna drop off this call and get the show prep for Globebusters. And mods, if you would, spam the link in the chat, and we'll see everybody on the other side over at Globebusters.
Sounds great. All right, everybody. So we're going over to Globebusters. If you scroll down to the description of this video, you'll see that there is a link to the show. I'm going to actually copy this and jump it in the chat 1 second. That's it. This one. Yep. Copy link. And we're going to drop it over here for everyone. Thank you, Conspiracy Mirrors Guru, for doing that. And there's another one for you. So yeah, come on over, and we will be over there in about 2 minutes or so. All right. So, Bob, are you going to redo the call? Is that what you're going to do? Your call's back, or?
Yeah, I guess I'll just call everybody back, because that way UAP can join in, because he's not with us yet.
Okay. Sounds
All
good.
right,
We'll
so
see you over there.
I'm hanging up, and I'll call everybody back in just a minute.
Talk to you later.
See you then. Bye.
All right. So Bob's going to call us back. We're going to be moving over there. The name of the show is Tartaria, Mudfloods, Resets, and the Theft of Your Mind. So very interesting topic. I've talked about resets before, and talked about Tartaria before, not so much about the mud floods, but I'm anxious to hear. I think UAP and Martin Liedtke are going to be kind of putting forth their best evidence for this stuff. So I ask everybody, as always, to keep your mind open. If you don't like this topic, you don't have to watch the show, obviously. But even if you don't like the topic and you want to just listen in, just keep your ears open. Listen, see if anything strikes a chord or kind of resonates with you. Does it meet your reality? Does it kind of help explain some things that maybe otherwise are not often explained well enough? That's what I do. So a show like this is my favorite, because I'm going to be able to sit back and allow these guys that have done more research than I have into this subject to try and convince me, or to at least show me their evidence. And at the end of the show, if I think that they're blowing a bunch of smoke, then so be it. That's the way it goes. But I'm anxious to see some of this research, especially on the plasma event that a lot of people think might happen. So yeah, hope you enjoy the show. Click on the link in the chat or in the description, and I will see you guys on the other side. And be kind to each other. Don't lie. And all that fun stuff. And until next time, this has been Jeranism. Peace.